Greetings, everyone. It's Glenn Calloway coming to you from the basement. Back with another video. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite artists. I've been planning on doing this for a while and motivated to get off my ass and do it from just watching my friend Scott at the Prog Corner just did a review of the Bongo Fury album, Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart. I'm a huge Zappa fan, one of my top 10 artists of all time. And Scott did a great job talking about this album, and really excited that he's working on a ranking of his top 20 Zappa albums. So go and check out Scott's video on Bongo Fury and push the bell to get a notification when he does his ranking, and just to watch all of Scott's videos. He's great. So thanks for the motivation to get me off my butt here, Scott. Today I just want to go over my Zappa catalog. I'm not ranking anything. I've ranked Zappa albums before. I might mention which ones I like, but I've got a really, I think, an extensive collection. Now, Frank released some 70 some albums in his lifetime, official releases. Up to count today, all the stuff that's been released posthumously, he is up to about 120 releases now. I'm off, give or take, approximate numbers. 120. I mean, that's insane. To be a Zappa completist is, I mean, you have to, I don't know, you have to be crazy. So, but I've got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of CDs. I got a few albums. I have some box sets, and so I first discovered Frank very early on. A friend of mine introduced me to the Freak Out album after it came out. I probably heard it early '67. It came out in June of '66. Absolutely loved it, and then Absolutely Free. I mean, which is one of my favorite Zappa albums, with Brown Shoes Don't Make It on there. Once I heard that song, it was that was it for me, man. I was in, jumped in with both feet. Yeah, Reuben and the Jets. I mean, all these albums. So I got to see Frank early on. I went to see Frank and the Original Mothers at Convocation Hall in Toronto in 1968. So. Yeah, so let's get started. I'm just going to start with my CDs. I'm not going to, there's too many really to just natter on about, but the first album, Absolutely Free. Now, a lot of these are the whole catalog. I shouldn't say the whole catalog, but most of the studio albums were reissued in 2012, I believe it was. And that's what these are. These are kind of they were all remastered and really highly well regarded. Before that, they were released on Ryko disc. So I have a few on Ryko disc, but most of these are Zappa records. The original Freak Out first album, Absolutely Free. The album I talked about, Brown Shoes Don't Make It's on here. Great album. Lumpy Gravy, not one of my favorites. Of course, the classic, We're Only in It for the Money, with the Sgt. Pepper parody cover. There's one person in particular who's in here that's very interesting, was there when they filmed this, right at my finger there. You recognize that dude? Yes, Jimi Hendrix. He was actually there. So, there's a lot of people who don't like Frank Zappa or don't understand him, don't want to get into him. I always think it's for one of two reasons. One, they don't like the kind of smutty, childish humor, immature, whatever you want to call it, that turns people off. And other thing is just the music. So I think you kind of have to understand where Frank was coming from. early on, Frank, in the early 60s, probably 64, something like that, Frank bought a recording studio off of this guy who owed him some cash, and the guy was trying to get rid of the recording studio. Frank took it over. And an undercover cop, because Frank had long hair early on, and this undercover cop came in and asked Frank if he said he's having a bachelor party, and would Frank make a pornographic film for him? And Frank's going, no, I can't make pornographic movies. But he said, how about a tape? I'll give you a tape. And the guy said, sure. So Frank and the woman he was with at the time made this what they thought was a humorous comedy tape. It had nothing to do with sex whatsoever. It was all these. All these just to put these guys on. It was they used like whatever things they had to make sound effects and stuff, and just made this stupid thing. Gave it to the guy. Turned out he was an undercover cop. They got busted for pornography, and Frank spent some time in jail. So Frank early on had this whole thing about censorship and that. So a lot of the stuff that he did and said harkens back to that episode. So there is kind of a motive to his madness there. Just trying to say, hey, maybe words and noises shouldn't be so offensive. But in musically, when Frank was a teenager, he wasn't like us into Elvis and everything. He was into R&B, and he was into doo-wop, but he was into classical music, and he was into a French classical composer by the name of Edmar Varese, who did this. If you listen to Frank's classical type music, you can really hear the influence. I mean, Varese did this kind of weird classical music with a lot of percussion and stuff. It's an interesting listen. But and Frank, as a teenager, he taught himself to read and write music. To the point where he was studying advanced harmony and being able to write compose music for every different type of instruments, from wind instruments and string instruments, and really developed this advanced knowledge of music theory. And that's kind of explains why he's a bit out there musically too. He can play a 12-bar blues as good as anybody, and then throw in these really crazy spot parts, and he's written symphony orchestras. He's symphonies for orchestras to perform, and I mean the man is musically just above everyone else. So just a bit. Now here's kind of his tribute to doo-wop and early rock and roll. Reuben and the Jets, Uncle Meat. What I think is probably his greatest album, Hot Rats. Burnt Weenie Sandwich, another favorite of mine. Weasels Rip My Flesh. How's that for a cover? He's got like a weasel ripping the guy's flesh. Makes sense. Chunga's Revenge, another favorite. My least favorite Zappa period, Flo and Eddie from the Turtles. Not a fan of all the comedy stuff. Musically, it's fine. I just get bored with it really quickly. But they still did some amazing stuff. Worked well together. Just another band from East LA. And Waka Jawaka. And let me get these, because Waka Jawaka, and then following that, now Waka Jawaka is called Hot Rats 2 because it's similar in style. I think some of the recordings were done at the same time. Then followed up with the Grand Wazoo. These are two of my favorite albums. And this December, there's a box set coming out focusing on these two albums. 5 CD set. One of them is a Blu-ray 5.1 for all you guys who are fans of the surround sound thing. But now these coming up here in the mid-70s were his albums that really are the most famous ones, most accessible albums. Overnight Sensation, which has Moving to Montana on it, and Zombie Wolf, and Dirty Love, I'm the Slime, Camarillo Brillo, a lot of stuff like just really accessible to rock fans. And then Apostrophe followed that with Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, Nanook Rubs It, Cosmic Debris, Apostrophe, which is a long instrumental with Jack Bruce from Cream, Stinkfoot, Roxy and Elsewhere, great live shows from '73. One Size Fits All, another great album. Here's the one Scott just did the review on, Bongo Fury, fantastic album. Beefheart's so good on this. This is just a great collaboration between the two of them. Amazing album. I'm looking for it on vinyl, been looking forever. I know I could go into Discogs and probably buy it and pay for it, but I like to physically look for records. I don't like to find them online, used ones. Zoodalure is another one that was part of that same period of Overnight Sensation and Apostrophe, kind of the rock period. Zappa in New York, another great live thing. Now, I think I'm not going to keep showing these. It gets kind of boring. There's also a set of albums called You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore that Frank started to release. There's 6 volumes. I'm missing a few of them. I've got volume 1. Now, these are just compilations of live stuff over the years. There's volume 2. This is the Helsinki concert. It's actually a full concert. And what else do I want to show here? I'll show you the other Can't Do That on Stages. So I've got volume 1, 2, and 4. I got 3 of them. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is focus on, I could keep showing more Zappa and more Zappa and more Zappa, but what I want to do is show some of the live stuff, because my favorite Zappa is live Zappa. And I'll show you in terms of my box sets and some of the stuff, the live stuff that I really think you guys should consider if you're looking for Zappa. Hold on a second. I'm going to grab some of these live albums. Please let me know in the comments if you're a fan. Okay, hold on. There's more live Zappa. More. You want more? Oh, I missed it. You Can't Do That on Stage, volume 6. So I've got 1, 2, 4, and 6. I need 3 and 5. Okay, here we go. Let's start talking about some live stuff. Now, a release just came out about a month ago. Zappa live in Yugoslavia. This is from 1975. Excellent. Man, if you like guitar, this album's just full of great guitar playing right here. Amazing album. I'm really digging this. Okay. Now, let me show you some of my vinyl, and then we'll start talking about some live stuff. The vinyl is a lot of stuff you've seen. I don't have a ton of Zappa on vinyl. I'm always looking for more. Burnt Weenie Sandwich. Freak Out. Hot Rats. Joe's Garage. One of Frank's more popular albums. That's just volume 1. It also comes in a set of volumes 1, 2, and 3. There's the album I was talking about that I'm not a big fan of, but I got it really cheap, so I picked it up. Chunga's Revenge. I won this in a contest from my friend Richard at Calvin Wazoo, his first contest. And that's another thing I want to mention, is give a shout out to Richard. If you're into Zappa and you want much more greater detail than I'm giving you, go to Richard's channel. He does a deep review on every Zappa album. Fantastic. Richard's a encyclopedia on Zappa. Zoodalures. Overnight Sensation, Apostrophe, and One Size Fits All. Okay, and one more album I want to show you Bob Dylan Infidels. What? Bob Dylan Infidels? Why am I showing this? Do you want to hear this interesting story? Frank Zappa spent, I'd say, 18 hours a day when he was home in his studio in the basement. His door thingy rings late at night, and he answers the intercom, and there's a guy outside, says he's Bob Dylan and wants to come in and talk to Frank. And of course Frank's thinking, no, this isn't Bob Dylan. So he listens a bit more, and he's hearing the voice, and I guess he must have a camera up there or something. He's looking, he sees this kind of, Bob Dylan's not the tallest guy in the world. Sees this guy out there, kind of looks Bob Dylan-ish. So he goes to the door and answers the door. It's Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan comes in. He's got somewhere around 10 or 11 new songs he wants to play for Frank, and he wants Frank to produce his next album. So they go through the songs, and unfortunately Frank's schedule does not coincide with Bob's schedule, and the album that eventually came to fruition was Bob Dylan's great Infidels album. He wanted Frank Zappa to produce this album, which was eventually produced by Mark Knopfler. Now this is a great album, and I love the production on it, but man, it would have been interesting to hear what Frank would have done with Bob. That would have been something. Okay, let's get into some live stuff, then I'm going to show you my box sets, and then I'm going to let you go. We're already at the 16-minute mark. Does humor belong in music? This is an awesome album, and on this album he does a version of Whippin' Post, the Allman Brothers song, which is fantastic. This is excellent album. One of my favorite live Zappa albums if you're looking for something. Another one that is going to make a jazz noise here is fantastic. Yeah, another great one. This one might be one of my favorites. The Best Band You've Never Heard in Your Life. I believe this is from the '88 tour. Now what he does on here is Stairway to Heaven. He does his version of Stairway to Heaven. Jimmy Page's solo, note for note, played by brass instruments. Very cool. Very cool. The Best Band You've Never Heard in Your Life. Another one of my favorites. This is an excellent one if you're not a Zappa fan. Imaginary Diseases. Live stuff, really heavy on the guitar, blues, a lot of blues on here. Great guitar album. Zappa Wazoo. This one was recently released, I'm going to say a year ago. It's the last U.S. show Frank would ever perform, Zappa 1988. Zappa and Halloween 1977. Frank's favorite holiday of the year was Halloween, and he used to do Halloween shows every year. And Frank, Chicago 1978. Okay, let's do some box sets here. One of my favorites, the Roxy box. This is from the 1973, same as Roxy and Elsewhere, except this is complete performances from the 3 nights or 4 nights. Every show, the rehearsals, fantastic sound, fantastic band. My favorite Zappa band with Ruth Underwood and George Duke and the Fowlers and Napoleon Murphy Brock and all these guys. They were just incredible musicians. Comes with a book. Yeah, so here's the lineup. Frank Zappa, George Duke, incredible. Tom Fowler on bass, Ruth Underwood on percussion, Bruce Fowler on trombone, Napoleon Murphy Brock, Ralph Humphrey on drums, and Chester Thompson on drums. Also featuring Jeff Simmons, Pamela DeBars, Carl Franzoni, and Brenda. There are 6 discs in here with all the shows, lots of pictures. 7 discs, actually. I lied, but wonderful set. and pretty inexpensive too, like $60 I think for 7 CDs. That's pretty good. Zappa live in New York, 40th anniversary. Comes in a cardboard box. Is there anything in the box? No, nothing in the box. Well, there was something in the box. It was a manhole cover. Zappa in New York. And in that, you've got your book. And you got 5 CDs of Zappa live in New York. Great performances. Oh, what's next? What's next? What else could Glenn possibly have here? This is too much Frank for most people. Okay, that I don't usually put in the box anyway. I keep them on the shelf because it's easier to access them. So let's put that over here. I'm running out of room. Next is this wacky thing. Another Halloween box set from 1973. These sets are ridiculous. They come with a Halloween mask and way over packaged as far as I'm concerned. You're paying for all this crap. You just want the music. So Zappa Foundation, who's ever responsible for this stuff, stop it and just give us the CDs, which are absolutely amazing. Here's the CDs that came with it. 1, 2, 3, 4 discs. There's also a Halloween 81 that you can buy. But just again, great performances. But man, I'm not happy at all with having to. I just keep that in the closet. What's next? How about this? The Hot Rat Sessions, Frank Zappa. This is a history of the whole recording sessions of the amazing Hot Rats album, which I think is Frank's greatest album. This goes 6 discs. You got basic track recordings of the piano, and then every take of Peaches and Regalia. 4 or 5 different sessions involved in most of the songs, and remixes of the album. I mean, it just has everything you'd ever want in here. It's an amazing set. I absolutely treasure this set. It also comes with, there's the 6 discs. And a book, of course, the obligatory book that always comes with these type of things. And don't stop, folks, a Frank Zappa game. There, you can have fun with your friends. How's that? And all the pieces to the game here, all here. Craziness. But just an absolute historic document of a great album. And what's next? This came out earlier this year, Frank Zappa Erie. This was 2 or 3 years of Frank's performances in the Erie, Pennsylvania era from 1974 to 1976. 6 CDs. There's 3 of the CDs. Again, this is an amazing album. Disc 1 and Disc 2 on this are just unfrickin' believably good. Like the best Zappa you could ever hear. Just incredible. I think I've shown you all my box sets. I want to show you a couple other things, and then we'll say goodbye. Books. Essential reading. Frank's an interesting character, man. If you like music biographies, reading a book on Frank Zappa is not the worst thing you could do. I just finished this one. I'd never read it before, and I picked it up. It's really good if you're just interested in the music. If you don't want to hear all the crap about, roadies and whatever else has gone on, this really just focuses on his musical career and his albums. Fantastic read. Electric Don Quixote by Neil Slavin. Check that book out if you're just a fan of the music. Again, another one, if you are one of those guys who likes to know every detail of recording sessions and what songs and when they were recorded and who farted on what part of the record, this book is essential for Zappa fans. The Big Note by Charles Ulrich. I mean, just incredible. A guide to the recordings of Frank Zappa. Look at this thing, man. It is just an encyclopedia and an absolute essential book for any Zappa fanatic. Frank wrote his own autobiography, The Real Frank Zappa book. This is a really cool read for the most part. Frank actually just gave interviews to a guy, and the guy compiled it into a book, and then Frank did write a couple of the chapters himself, but mostly it's Frank's ramblings, and really interesting read into the mind of Zappa. Here's a biography of his life, and you'll get the whole history of his upbringing and how it all came to be, and his sad passing and whatever else. This is Barry Miles' Zappa, a biography. And that's it for my Zappa collection. I urge you to give Zappa a try. Check out Imaginary Diseases. You should be able to find it on Spotify. If you just like guitar and blues rock guitar and stuff like that, that's a great album. Apostrophes, a great starting place. One Size Fits All is a great starting place. If you start to get into it from a musical standpoint, and if you're into jazz or classical or prog or anything, you should really dig some of this stuff. I mean, it's amazing. So thanks a lot. Everyone have a great day. Push the like button or the dislike button, whatever button you choose, and subscribe and push the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And thank you very much. Have a great day.